Hey, this is Stan Walters. Welcome back to episode number 46. Keeping track, number 46. Last week we talked about the angry subject. This week we're going to talk about the angry interviewer when being right goes all wrong. So this time, let's go back and look at our interview that we looked at last week. Take a few moments. This time I want you to pay attention and listen to the interviewer talking to the subject. Pay attention to his dialogue.
Right? A robbery.
And the law is stealing. But
That's all we're talking about here.
okay, but now I did not this Blackfoot rob her for her gun. I took her gun from her to keep her from killing me. If your wife shoots at you once before, and you know, and you
that's
know,
what you should have done.
I got the hell out. But now I'm knowing that she qualified to shoot me, and you see the advantage to take the gun from her from killing you.
Out of my face.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, Billy. But now if you see the option to take the gun from your wife to keep her from killing you, would you take it, yes or no? Yes or no?
It doesn't make any difference.
It makes a lot of difference because that's your life that you looking out for.
Let me explain this to you. Let me explain.
Okay, so first off, I'm not talking behind the interviewer's back. Okay, this is one of my students from very early, 40-something years ago when I started working and doing research in this field. And the interviewer had attended all 4 level classes. There's a 1 and 2, which is a 40-hour class. We get into the interrogation strategies itself. But a level 3 and 4 was a lot of work that we did at prisons in proof of concept, proof of the evidence-based interviewing that you're seeing today. That's been in development under my cognitive reliability formula for quite some time. And he was one of those students, went through all through level 4, and he said, "You warned me, you told me, and this is what happened." And he gave me permission to use that tape. Okay, so in this case, remember we talked about first thing that last week on the previous episode, number 45, that was subjects that anger is a reaction behavior. Okay, and in reaction behavior, it's knee-jerk, and the person is not listening, not hearing, making any good cognitive decisions or cognitive reasoning or logic. All right. So in this case, the same thing has happened now to the interviewer. The interviewer is doing more arguing, but not listening to the subject. So you want to think of when the subject is angry and the interviewer is angry, who's listening? Nobody. Both of them are locked out. And the problem is, it is almost like a whirlpool. It's extremely difficult to escape. But we're going to talk about a couple of tools that you use for escaping this vortex. But you've got to understand what anger is doing. Okay. So the interviewer is not hearing the subject. Okay. Now, the other problem, and let's go to this first, get over yourself. I'm sorry. Some interviewers need to be told that. Get over yourself. You're not the great mediator. You're not the great judgment passer on your subject. You do not need to convince them. You're not ever going to convince them that they are wrong. Your goal is not to get them to say they knew they did wrong. That's not your objective. Your objective is to get information, not to pass judgment. So stop lecturing them. All you're doing is creating a fight. Now, once you challenge, where this anger and aggression typically starts, one good common place is using an accusatory style interview. The interviewer immediately or up front somewhere accuses the subject, or down the line accuses the subject of information that's wrong. Or, now in this case, the interviewer did not do that part, but then he wanted the subject to say they were wrong, that he shouldn't have done it, that he was wrong in the decision making. The subject doesn't think he's wrong. One of the things I learned in the 40 years in prisons of all the inmates that we've talked to, rarely did an inmate ever feel with that what they did, that the laws were suspended at that time. They had the right to do it. So don't try to change their mind. And yelling at him is not going to get it. Now, we saw what happens once, and the interviewer told me, said, I was in that trap and couldn't find a way out. So here's how we're going to find the way out of this trap. Now, there's 2 great sources on this. One is Blaise Pascal, who was a 17th century philosopher, theologian, and physicist. Triple career, right? Okay. Another more modern is a guy named Ray Ransberger, who talked about dealing with hostile negotiations or hostile conversations, a hostile subject. Blaise Pascal said, you cannot tell the person that their decision is wrong, because immediately you set them off and they turn off and stop listening to you. Bingo. And hence starts the argument. Because you think they're wrong, they don't. Okay? This is not a battle you need to fight. You're wasting your energy and time, and you're going to lose your subject. All right? Pascal said what you do is you engage the person and suggest, what about these options? You let them discover that they overlook. There's some of the things when they find the answer themselves to how to solve the problem, they think they have discovered it and they will take it as their own. Follow that? Okay. So you don't need to tell them, say, well, what about this? Or help me understand. What was your frame of mind? What was your thought process? That's information you need. Now, Ransberger had an excellent process. He named a process called the Ransberger pivot. Well, he named it after himself, but it was named after him. He said, in a hostile situation, we have a hostile person, angry and yelling at you. You need to get them out of the emotional side into the thinking side. You got that? The pivot. You're pivoting from emotional to cognitive. So Surya stops and said, okay, Jonathan or Jerry, or Helen, okay, I've missed something. Apparently I've misunderstood or I've gotten some information. Go back. What's one important thing? Help me understand. What am I missing? See what you've done? You've taken them out of emotion, given them a moment to think, and you will accept and listen to their statement. You shifted them out of that reaction into responding. And you do that with each point. Again, you don't try to subject them to right or wrong. Okay. That's not the choice. That's the jury's job. Okay. And so to argue with them, to fight with them is wrong. You keep hammering and you just lock down tighter. And that's where the aggression comes from. So think of Blaise Pascal, of pivoting from your point of view to their side of view, almost like pivoting on the other side of the table or the other side of the room, other side of the chairs. Okay, let me see it from your perspective. What am I missing? What am I overlooking? And do that a piece at a time. Now, one thing that also happens in accusatory interviews is the interviewers load up too many things at one time. They put too many factors into a single point or a single grand slam home run, win it all by nailing everything. Well, that's the problem. You put it into all or nothing, you wind with a 3 strikes, you're out, and you kicked out of the game for throwing the bat. Okay. So look at those two formulas about aggression from the subject, and then look at the Ransberger pivot and Blaise Pascal and how to diffuse that moment. Be sure to click the subscribe button. There are more great episodes coming on. That's all. This would be unusual. If you'd like to see one in progress and understand exactly what we're talking about within the evidence-based interviewing process and why the narrative style works better than the accusatory style. But you aren't going to find out unless you hit the subscribe button and meet with us every week. Every Tuesday, the episode drops. Because remember, choices you make in the interview eventually are going to show up in the courtroom. Be safe. See you next Tuesday.